I was born without a voice. I was born with an esophageal trachea fistula damage issue that had to be repaired when I was born. So as an infant, it was really difficult for me to cry or learn to speak. And then eventually I ended up being able to do those things a little later than some kids and developed a passion for singing. So it was kind of miraculous that not only was I able to eventually speak, I also have developed a career in using my voice.
Welcome to Latinx in Power, a podcast hosted by Thaisa Fernandes.
Welcome to Latinx in Power. Today we are talking with Jasmine Ortiz. Jasmine is an independent artist that has gone viral. Jasmine was originally born without a voice, but her parents knew early that she was destined to a career in music. Welcome to Latinx in Power, Jasmine.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on today. It's a pleasure to talk about my journey as a musician and also my journey as a Latina with you. I was born without a voice. I was born with an esophageal trachea fistula damage issue that had to be repaired when I was born. So as an infant, it was really difficult for me to cry or learn to speak. And then eventually I ended up being able to do those things a little later than some kids and developed a passion for singing. So it was kind of miraculous that not only was I able to eventually speak, I also have developed a career in using my voice.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So inspiring. You have a beautiful voice. So in this episode, we'll talk more about Jasmine's journey towards the music industry and also as an advocate for social change. So two very, very important topics. And one of my favorite questions that I would love to hear more from you. What does it mean to be a Latina for you?
For me, I would think the biggest thing is community. I have found such a large community, especially living here in Miami, just with Latinidad and the culture here. I've connected so much with my background as a Boricua and Puerto Rican, Salvadoran and Spanish. So I just have a lot of different cultural influences on my lifestyle and on my music. But especially being in Miami, there's so much Caribbean culture here that I absolutely connect with. So that community is super important to me. And also a huge part of being a Latina to me is pride and customs. I really love certain traditions that my family and I have, especially around the holidays. We celebrate Dia de los Reyes. We celebrate just a lot of things in a very specific way that might be different from how Americans celebrate certain things. And I'm also an American, but I love having my Latina culture as the backbone of how I was raised.
That's incredible. I love that. I'm curious to know like the traditions towards like the celebration. One thing that it's very interesting. I actually am going to spend the New Year's, the end of the year with my mom. And from Brazilians, we always wear like white during the New Year's Eves. And when I moved to the US, I learned that people use whatever color they feel like wearing it, but in Brazil we always use white. So it's so interesting to like blend the traditions and the cultures.
Absolutely, that is so cool. I mean, specifically for Thanksgiving, we make arroz con gandules, we make yuca, we make plátanos maduros. For Christmas, we make pasteles. Always get coquito from our local neighborhood friend that always makes it in the Bacardi bottles. You always have some sort of tradition like that. And also we celebrate Nochebuena. We celebrate Christmas Eve instead of Christmas Day. So that's another one that's very popular in Latin America. And growing up, I was the only person I knew that celebrated Dia de los Reyes because it's so uncommon here. Obviously, certain religions in the States still celebrate it, but it's such a Latino thing as well. And growing up very Puerto Rican and Salvadoran, that was like, you can't miss Dia de los Reyes. You have to leave out the straw for the camels and the water. And it was a whole thing. I loved it. And I even spent a New Year's Eve and Dia de los Reyes in Puerto Rico with my grandparents one year. And that was amazing.
That's incredible. That's so cool. And I feel that is so interesting to mix those different cultures. I think I'm starting to do that, like especially with Thanksgiving. That to me was something very new. But now I'm seeing myself and my partner kind of like trying to blend, creating our own traditions of making like our Brazilian food. Actually, I'm already customizing it because I'm vegan. So I'm like changing everything. I feel.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And how did everything start? We'll talk a little bit about your journey. I love that if you can share a little bit more.
Absolutely. Overall, I've always had a very deep and passionate relationship with music. I began playing piano and taking lessons when I was 3. And the story behind that is actually really funny. So I was out to dinner in Atlantic City, New Jersey with my parents and some of their colleagues. I was only around 2 years old. And during dinner, my mom recounts this story at every holiday because it's hilarious. I apparently climbed out of my high chair and snuck onto the stage of this old vaudeville theater that we were eating in. And they had a grand piano on the stage, which I then proceeded to play a little melody on. Just, messing around a little bit, playing with the piano. And all of a sudden, my mom realizes, she looks over, oh my gosh, where is Jasmine? She freaks out. She's like, I'm a horrible mom. Where's my daughter? Just kind of like freaking out. Obviously, she's a wonderful mom. She was just having a moment. So she looks over to the stage. There I am playing the piano.
She's 3 years old.
Yeah, 2.5. So she walks up to me and she says, Jasmine, it's time to go. We have to go back to dinner. And I tell her, no, I want to stay playing the piano. And people in the restaurant at this point are clapping and looking and like kind of saying, oh, don't drag that little girl off the stage. That was cute. So I'm negotiating at this point with my mom. I'm saying, hey, can you get me a piano? I want a piano. And she's like, yes, I'll get you a piano just to get me off the stage. But then that conversation, I was persistent with her for several months, actually. And then eventually she took me to meet a teacher for piano lessons. And after that point, I was around 3 or 3.5. I was with that teacher for 15 years.
Oh, that's incredible. It was the first time that you saw a piano. How was your feeling about it? I'm curious.
I think I was always drawn to the stage in general, just because I thought it looked fun. Like I loved watching media where other people were on stage. I've always loved watching theater and watching movies. So I think something about it always appealed to me. And I think it was the same with music.
That's so cool. And how was your process getting to the music industry?
Getting into the music industry is definitely a long, intensive journey. I would say that after I started piano at 3, then I started a few instruments. I started guitar, I did viola, saxophone, a little bit of drums, just kind of everything through the years, picking up little things and trying them, seeing what I liked best. Once I got to high school, I went to a performing arts high school. And that's when I really took it to the next level and became more serious professionally, because I figured if I'm devoting this much time, I've already devoted the past however many 10, 12 years to it. Now I can take it to a professional level. And I began writing, recording, and releasing music at a professional level. And that process basically began with using independent distributors, like distributor companies that any artist can sign up for online, just subscription based. So that was kind of my intro into that world. And then eventually, through just having some songs reach levels of success, I was able to meet more people and then kind of get different connections. And that's just kind of how it happened. And I would say, looking back, there are a lot of things that you have experienced that you do that, maybe I could have done that better. But I feel like every single time that I've learned from mistakes, I've just gotten better at moving forward. So I can safely say that over the course of my career, I don't regret a single release. I don't regret a single video. I really feel like I've put my heart and soul into it. And even if I've grown from the point that I was making music at in the past, I still feel like it was an important part of my journey.
Yeah, I love that. Did you always have this mindset about thinking about improving and having this sense of like, I'm getting better every time? Because I think it's something very hard. I feel like personally, it's something that I struggle sometimes. And I think we have been talking more about this sense of like getting better, but it's kind of new still, I feel.
I will agree with you, honestly. I mean, we haven't touched upon this yet, but I just graduated college this past May. So I think throughout that experience being in college, there was a lot of self-doubt, because you're constantly being exposed to new influences. You're constantly being taught different things. And it's really easy to get kind of distracted along the way. I mean, as much as education is invaluable, and I absolutely adore the education that I received, I think it was honestly pivotal in my career. In addition to that, it can also be a little difficult to discern amongst everything that you're learning. What is it that I can do to stay true to myself? where is my voice in all this? How can I stand out from the crowd and also feel authentic? So these are all questions that I had been asking myself the past 4 years. And I genuinely feel that over the past 6 months, I've come to the point where I've accepted things that happened in the past. And I've just said, hey, I really like that thing that I did 4 years ago. There's no point in not liking it. And I really love what I'm doing today. I love what I'm doing tomorrow. And I really just want to keep getting better and better and better at my craft because this is my passion. So I feel like I've come to that point more recently. And it's been really healing, honestly, to come to that point and go into this new year super excited just to make and release music, just whatever types of music that I feel would be best.
Amazing. I'm so excited. I love to hear that you are an avid advocate for social justice, social change as well. And I read a little bit about the Guitars Over Guns initiative that you're part of, and a lot if you can share more about it.
Absolutely. So I actually volunteered with Guitars Over Guns while I was in college, and I learned so much about their programming before. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue because of the COVID pandemic, but they have recently started picking things up again, which is amazing. Their motto, basically their mission, is to provide mentorship through music. So this program is in different public schools throughout the city of Miami and Chicago, and possibly other locations as well. And its main goal is to allow students to stay after school for free, no cost to them, provide them with academic and musical mentorship, as well as snacks, if that's something that they can't access at home, adult supervision, which is a lot of times something they can't access at home, and also someone who can really help guide them. And whether or not these students follow a career path in music professionally, or whether it's an outlet for them artistically, that is really the core of their mission, because they want these kids to have an outlet and they want these kids to have a guiding force. And a lot of the time, if they're living in a situation where they have a lot of stresses or anxiety at home, it can be impossible to even focus on school. So this allows them to be a little more far removed from the situation, at least for several hours after school every day. And because it's a consistent program, let's say they have an exam coming up. Okay, maybe they'll spend some time after school with a mentor working through how they can do best on that exam instead of just focusing on the music part. So it's definitely a multifaceted approach to a very serious issue, especially in big cities like this.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a game changer. I'm always so fascinating with music in general. Like, I listen to music all the time, every day. And I love the power that music has in terms of like bringing you different memories, right? Bringing you to different times and different memories, and also the healing power of that. I always like trying to pay a lot of attention to the lyrics, and sometimes they speak to what I'm feeling at the moment, or like whatever is happening to my life. And it's so interesting because different people might see different like musics in different ways. So it can fit in like different use cases. So I'm always very fascinated about that.
And you'd be surprised by how much kids are motivated by music, because when they don't feel seen or heard, either at home or at school by their other teachers, music can be the only way they feel they can express themselves. And when you have someone coming in, a lot of the teachers for this program are volunteers, like I was at one point. And I just think it's really beautiful to see young people devoting their time and energy to a cause that is so deeply important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredible from the point of view of the volunteers. I'm sure you learned a lot and felt very inspired. And for the folks part of that, because I can imagine, like, especially as a young kid or like teenager, sometimes it might be challenging to express your feelings, right? You're trying to figure out, and music might be something that will help you and help you in a lot of different areas of your life. So that's very interesting. Another topic that I want to bring to this podcast, you're also an advocate in your community for cleaner energy. This is a very important topic for me as well. I think this is very cool. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts about how the music industry can focus their efforts on making concerts more eco-friendly. I think one thing that at least I heard a lot, I'm not sure now, but I remember in the past people talking about not having water bottles. But besides that, I feel there's a lot more that they can do in a lot of different areas, including food, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just thinking about the amount of food waste and single-use plastic waste that goes into every single concert at every single venue. And there's not even a particular, person or entity to blame. It's really just how we've set up these spaces more than anything. And I think first and foremost, powering these venues with something like solar or wind or geothermal energy would automatically take a lot of the stress away from the environment. It would lessen their carbon footprint immediately. And even making a switch from, non-biodegradable plastic into reusable plastic or biodegradable pseudo plastics that have been developed by different companies. I know that I personally have seen straws that look like plastic and feel like plastic, but they are biodegradable. I think those options, albeit maybe a little bit more expensive, those costs are already covered in how much ticket prices have risen. So in my mind, it's like you're paying more to see these shows. The artists are sometimes being paid less, and then the venues are still having the same impact on the environment. So I think just kind of shifting around a little bit of the weight would help the situation immensely. I think another thing, because you can't reduce the amount of electricity, if you're using green energy, that would help. But just reducing the overconsumption that is so prevalent at these spaces and, trying to find a middle ground. I mean, everyone loves live entertainment. Everyone loves having food and drinks at these spaces, but it could be little changes by, big companies that run these spaces that could make all the difference in the world, because so many of the major concerts and the major venues are all channeled through the same companies. So it would really just take a few decision makers to make a worldwide impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you as a musician is talking about that, because I feel like sometimes, for example, in my case, as like the person who goes to the concert, we might not have a lot of voice on that, or not even understand a lot of things behind the scenes, and don't know how to help or contribute or like even share ideas. But I love that you're doing that and promoting this conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, even just transporting equipment between venues when you're in a domestic tour. I mean, you're putting thousands upon thousands of miles on each of those 18-wheeler trucks. And let's say a big artist might have 10 or 12 of those trucks full of equipment per show, leaving and going to each venue. So that's another thing to consider. Can those giant trucks be equipped with solar panels? Or if that's not going to work, can they be equipped with a biofuel? Can they be equipped with electric chargers? It's those larger scale changes that could also make a difference.
Absolutely. And you graduated from the University of Miami, received an academic scholarship. You also play 5 instruments and speak 3 different languages, all while pursuing your career in music. Like, wow. And I need to ask you this question. How do you manage so many things? Do you have any insights or any tips to share with us?
Honestly, I think that taking it one step at a time is really, really important. I mean, I didn't learn the 5 instruments at the same time. That would be really, really difficult. I spaced it out quite a bit. So I started piano when I was 3. Then I started guitar and viola around 8 or 9. Viola was more so in school and orchestra, and then guitar was something I just personally wanted to pursue. I learned a bit of saxophone when I was around 12 or 13. And then into high school, I picked up a little bit of drums. So those are just kind of how I separated the spacing between them. But I would say that my favorite instruments to play are still the guitar and piano, because that's kind of how I started out. And one of the reasons I got into music is the piano. So that's really, really fun for me. As far as everything else goes, my time at the University of Miami was absolutely incredible. I learned so many things. I developed a love for, social justice issues, especially because I minored in political science. I was a part of the Model UN team. So I debated foreign policy on different issues from the perspective of various countries. We competed at schools like Harvard, Columbia, Chicago, University of Florida, just all over the country. And that taught me the value of time management. And it's something that I struggle with every single day. I'm not going to say that it's easy. I just kind of have been able to put my foot down with certain things and say, okay, this is my top priority for today. Even if that's all I get done today, I will feel accomplished. And I have learned to also try to not bite off more than I can chew, because originally I was doing that. I was involved in every little thing every single day. And I realized there's different seasons for different things in your life. And I learned to really prioritize the things that genuinely made me happy. And that's how I've been able to do it. Because when you really like something and it really interests you or makes you happy, it doesn't feel as hard to get there and as hard to do those things. So I think that has been my biggest key, just doing what makes me happy.
Incredible. You mentioned two things that really speak to me. I love this sense of respecting the seasons. And you might be in a season that you want to do a lot of things and work all the time. And then you might have another season that is different, and having this sense of respecting those seasons and like bringing the sense that like everything is okay, right? And doing one thing at a time, I think it's key. I feel that sometimes people also share, I want to do a lot more, or maybe they say, oh, it's kind of late, or they might be in their like early 30s or late 30s and feel that it's like too late. But I think it's never too late, right? If you want to do something, just do it. Maybe you need to prioritize, or maybe you need to respect the season or plan, but do it, right? There's nothing about like age or like whatever, like just do it.
I agree entirely. I feel that there is a different season for everything almost, and it just depends on what you have to or want to prioritize, and that's going to keep changing every single year of your life basically. So I've realized that, while I was in college, that season was very focused on my personal development, my artistic development, definitely focusing still on my career, but also on my academic career. And that was really important to me. And I'm so grateful to have had that time and that opportunity to fully finish that out. And now that that chapter is kind of closed, now I'm just full steam ahead, 100% devoted to my artistic career, to my artistic self. But a large part of me feels that I wouldn't be in the same place I am if I hadn't had that experience at University of Miami, because they gave me so many tools to take into my career that I just kind of would have been clueless without.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I always like to bring to this podcast is, of course, different journeys, different careers. And the goal is to inspire people and also share resources. So I was wondering, like, which resource helped you in your journey? It can be anything, an artist, a book, or a course, or anything.
Honestly, I want to say there's so many things that come to mind, but really just different artists' individual stories have helped me a lot. I can't really point to an article or a book or a movie, but just kind of following along and listening and learning. For example, how Beyonce came up through Destiny's Child, how her family was such a huge part of the beginning of her career developing. Just everything that she went through, every single little change, every setback, every downfall as an early artist that just kind of pushed her to try harder and to just keep going. I think her story is really inspiring to me, just because, leaving a girl group that was already so massively popular and coming out as an independent artist of your own, that's bound to create some animosity. That's bound to be a really difficult decision when those are your best friends. So, that was really intriguing and interesting to me. Another story is Lady Gaga, because she came out as such an original act. And a lot of people said no. A lot of people told her, you need to be more commercial, or you need to be more generic, or you need to change this, you need to change that. And she said, no, I'm going to wait for the right person to see me for who I am. And that inspires me greatly, because she stuck to her own personality. She stuck to her own artistic vision until today, honestly. And through every single one of her eras, she has changed so much. I mean, from her early paparazzi days into art pop, into Joanne. I mean, there's just so much variety there. I mean, even her acting career also is another inspiration to me because I absolutely adore acting. I started out as a child actor at 5 years old. So I also really respect that journey of hers. And it's something that I would like to mimic in my own career because it's something that I absolutely do want to get back into. But just to round it all out, I feel like their journeys as independent, powerful women who are successful in this industry without compromising who they are and what they stand for, that is something that I strive to emulate.
I love your examples, and also I love those artists as well, and also like thinking about their journeys, right? How inspiring it is, and how maybe now they are in a point where they can self-express a lot more and maybe share a lot more about their struggles, their lives. And it's very inspiring and interesting because it brings this point of like, they're also a human being. They struggle like me, even Beyonce struggles, right? So I like that because it brings them close to us and we're like, oh, it's fine. I have my bad days, like Lady Gaga also. So I like that. And like thinking about their journey, like very inspiring since day one, but also how they changed over the years as well. That's very interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we are getting to the end of this episode. I really, really enjoyed talking with you, and I want to leave the last minutes for you, Jasmine, so you can share more about you and where people can find you. And we are going to link to the description of this episode, all the links and social media channels.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So the best places to find me on social media would be at I am Jasmine Ortiz on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find me on all of those, and TikTok, of course, as well, at the same @ And then for YouTube, you can find me at I am Jasmine Ortiz or just Jasmine Ortiz, my page. For Spotify, Apple Music, all the streaming services, you can find me under Jasmine Ortiz. And please go stream my newest single that is out now, December 9th. It's called The Jaguar Remix. I am absolutely in love with this. I worked with a producer called Mayre. He is absolutely incredible. He did an excellent job with this remix. And I just wanted to give that and him a quick shout out.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I love learning more about you. And yeah, please listen to her music. She's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.